My name is Lucas Hayes, and I've always had an insatiable curiosity for the macabre. Oddities, relics, and artifacts with dark histories draw me in like a moth to a flame. A couple of weeks ago, I found myself in one of my usual haunts, a dingy little thrift store that always seemed to have something bizarre lurking in its shadows. That day, I stumbled upon a piece that felt like it was calling out to me. A necklace made of a simple string with a clay-sculpted mask dangling from it. It wasn't the craftsmanship that drew me in. The mask wasn't particularly beautiful or well-made. It was crude, misshapen even, with hollowed-out eyes and a faintly menacing smile carved into the clay. But something about it gripped me. I felt a compulsion, a hunger to own it, as if the mask itself whispered promises of secrets only I could uncover. "That thing is bad news, Lucas," my sister Jessica said. She'd tagged along that day, mostly to keep me out of trouble. "Seriously, it's giving me the creeps. Leave it." I barely acknowledged her. She'd always been too cautious, too moral, too soft. Her words slid off me like water off a duck's back. I held the necklace up to the light, letting the mask's shadow dance across the floor. A sinister grin crept across my lips as I imagined it nestled among the other treasures in my collection. Jessica didn't understand. Nobody did. I wasn't just collecting junk. I was curating pieces of forgotten power, remnants of a world that most people chose to ignore. "Relax," I said, dismissing her concern with a wave of my hand. "It'll look perfect in my bookcase." The bookcase stood at the foot of my bed, a shrine to the strange and unusual. Skulls, antique daggers, cursed-looking dolls. They all stared down at me as I slept, guardians of the secrets I sought. This mask would fit right in. Without a second thought, I bought it. Here's the thing. I always cleanse the items I bring home. A simple ritual, just to be safe. But this time, I didn't. I couldn't explain it then, but now I think the mask didn't want to be cleansed. The idea of purifying it didn't even cross my mind. It was as if the necklace, or whatever was attached to it, clouded my thoughts. That night, I hung the necklace on the bookcase and admired my growing collection. Then I went to bed. That's when the nightmares started. At first, they were mild. Strange, unsettling dreams of shadowy figures and whispers I couldn't quite make out. But each night, they intensified. By the third night, I woke up drenched in sweat, the whispers from my dreams still echoing in my ears. I brushed it off as stress, or maybe too much caffeine. On the fifth night, the nightmares turned into full-blown terrors. This time, I wasn't just a spectator. I was the prey. I'd wake up gasping for air, my heart pounding as if I'd been running for my life. It was exhilarating in a twisted way, but also disturbing. Jessica, of course, noticed. She always noticed. "Lucas, you look like hell. Are you okay?" she asked over breakfast, her tone laced with genuine concern. I shrugged. "Just some bad dreams. Nothing I can't handle." But it wasn't just me. The next day, Jessica admitted she'd been having nightmares, too. "Intense ones," she said. When our mom, Diane, mentioned she'd had a restless night, my interest peaked. Mom's room was upstairs, far removed from mine and Jessica's. The connection was too coincidental to ignore. "You think it's the necklace?" Jessica asked, her voice low, almost fearful. I smirked. "Maybe. Guess it's got a stronger presence than I thought." "Lucas, this isn't funny," she snapped. "Get rid of it." "No," I said flatly. The idea of parting with it felt wrong. Unthinkable. "I'll cleanse it. Okay? Relax." That night, I went through the motions of a cleansing ritual, but my heart wasn't in it. Deep down, I didn't want to cleanse the necklace. I wanted to see where this path would lead. The darkness intrigued me. It called to me. The seventh night brought the worst nightmare yet. A creature emerged from the shadows of my dream. A grotesque, hairy abomination with twisted limbs and a round, misshapen body. Its torso was dominated by the mask, glowing faintly as it stared at me with hollow eyes. Then it lunged. I felt its weight pinning me down, its energy draining the life from me. I woke up, paralyzed. My eyes were wide open, but I couldn't move. The necklace hung on the bookcase, its mask now seeming larger, more malevolent. Shadows danced across my room, and I swear I saw the creature again, scuttling behind my desk like some demented animal. The next morning, I knew I had to act, but not out of fear. Out of curiosity. I wanted to understand the power of the necklace, to harness it, maybe even control it. My family, however, had other ideas. Jessica and Mom had become relentless. Jessica would follow me around the house, arms crossed, her expression a mix of fear and frustration. "Lucas, you're playing with fire," she'd hiss whenever she caught sight of the necklace. "You're going to get us all killed." "Don't be so dramatic," I'd reply. But the truth was, I could feel the shift in the house. The air was heavy, oppressive, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Even the smallest noises seemed amplified. The creak of a floorboard, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the wind rattling the windows. The house felt alive, and not in a comforting way. Despite my bravado, the creature from my dreams haunted me. I'd catch fleeting glimpses of it in my peripheral vision, a dark shape darting behind furniture or slinking up the staircase. It was always just out of reach, but its presence was undeniable. It wanted something from me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the necklace was the key. "We need to do something," Mom said one morning, her voice trembling. She hadn't slept in days. The dark circles under her eyes were evidence of that. "This thing, whatever it is tearing our family apart." I leaned back in my chair, a smug smile playing on my lips. "I'm handling it, Mom. Don't worry." Jessica slammed her hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. "Handling it? Are you kidding me? You're obsessed. You don't even see what it's doing to you, to us." Her outburst was satisfying in a way I couldn't fully explain. Watching her unravel, seeing her fear and desperation, it gave me a strange sense of power. I didn't want to admit it, but the necklace had changed me. The person I'd been before felt like a distant memory, a weaker version of the one I was becoming. "Fine," I said finally, raising my hands in mock surrender. "If it makes you feel better, I'll do some research. Maybe there's a ritual or something to contain it." That seemed to appease them for the moment, but I had no intention of getting rid of the necklace. If anything, I wanted to deepen my connection to it. The darkness it brought into my life was intoxicating, like a drug I couldn't quit. I started spending hours online, diving into forums and obscure texts about cursed objects, binding rituals, and summoning practices. The more I learned, the more the necklace seemed to pulse with energy, as if it was responding to my efforts. One night, I decided to test its limits. I waited until everyone was asleep and took the necklace down from its place on the bookcase. The mask felt warm in my hands, almost alive. I set up a makeshift altar on my desk, candles, salt, and a bowl of water, and began chanting a spell I'd found in an ancient grimoire. At first, nothing happened. The room was silent except for the flickering of the candles. But then, the air grew cold, and the shadows in the room seemed to deepen. The necklace began to hum, a low, resonant vibration that I could feel in my chest. And then I saw it. The creature from my dreams, standing in the corner of the room, its grotesque form illuminated by the candlelight. It didn't attack me this time. Instead, it tilted its head, as if studying me. Its hollow eyes bored into mine, and for a moment, I felt a connection, a shared understanding. This thing wasn't just a figment of my imagination. It was real, and it was bound to the necklace. To me. "What do you want?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The creature didn't respond, but its gaze lingered on the necklace. Slowly, I realized that it wasn't just bound to the object. It was trapped by it. The mask was its prison, and I held the key. A twisted grin spread across my face as the possibilities dawned on me. This wasn't something to fear. This was power. Real, tangible power. And it was mine to wield. The next morning, Jessica confronted me again. "What were you doing last night?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing. "I heard voices coming from your room." "Just doing some research," I said, my tone light but edged with defiance. You wanted me to figure out how to deal with the necklace, didn't you? She didn't look convinced. Lucas, please. Whatever you're doing, stop. It's not worth it. But it was worth it. More than she could ever understand. I didn't stop. The necklace had become my obsession. Every waking moment was consumed by thoughts of it and the creature it harbored. I began pushing the boundaries of what I could do, experimenting with spells and rituals I'd only read about in passing. Each attempt seemed to strengthen the connection between us. It wasn't long before the creature began to speak. Not in words, but in emotions, images, and whispers that crept into my thoughts like a dark fog. It showed me visions of power, of bending the world to my will. It promised me everything I'd ever wanted, if only I would free it. Free you? I asked one night, staring into the mask's hollow eyes. My voice trembled with a mix of fear and anticipation. What happens if I do? A wave of exhilaration washed over me, accompanied by images of chaos and destruction. Cities burning, people bowing before me, their eyes filled with fear and reverence. The creature wasn't just offering me power. It was offering me domination. But there was a cost. There always is. The visions turned darker, showing me the price I'd have to pay. My soul, my humanity, my very essence, all of it would belong to the creature. I hesitated, but only for a moment. What did my soul matter if I could achieve greatness? If I could become unstoppable? I began preparing for the ritual to free the creature. It wasn't easy. The texts were fragmented, the instructions vague. I spent sleepless nights piecing together the steps, gathering the necessary ingredients, and carving the intricate sigils into the floor of my room. Jessica and Mom grew more suspicious with each passing day. Lucas, you're scaring us, Mom said one evening, her voice trembling. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this has to stop. You're overreacting, I replied, my tone cold and dismissive. I'm fine. Jessica wasn't so easily brushed off. This isn't you, she said, cornering me in the hallway. Whatever that thing is, it's changing you. Please, Lucas, just get rid of it. Her pleas only fueled my resolve. She didn't understand, couldn't understand, what I was on the verge of achieving. I pushed past her, slamming the door to my room and locking it behind me. There was no turning back now. The night of the ritual arrived. I waited until the house was silent, the faint snores of my family reassuring me that they were asleep. The room was bathed in the flickering light of dozens of black candles, their flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. The necklace lay at the center of the sigil, its mask glowing faintly, as if anticipating what was to come. I began the incantation, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The air grew heavy, charged with an unnatural energy that made the hair on my arms stand on end. The shadows in the room seemed to coalesce, forming a dense, pulsating mass that hovered over the necklace. Then, the creature appeared. It emerged from the shadows, its grotesque form more vivid than ever. Its hollow eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a surge of power unlike anything I'd ever experienced. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Do it, the creature's voice rasped in my mind, a chorus of whispers that sent shivers down my spine. Free me. I raised the dagger I'd prepared, its blade etched with runes meant to sever the creature's ties to the necklace. But as I brought it down, a sudden, desperate pounding on my door shattered my focus. Lucas, stop. Jessica's voice was frantic, filled with terror. You don't know what you're doing. I hesitated, the dagger hovering inches above the necklace. The creature's presence surged, filling the room with a suffocating darkness. Ignore her, it hissed. They're weak. They'll never understand. But Jessica didn't give up. Lucas, please. You're not like this. You're not a monster. Don't let it win. Her words cut through the haze of power and ambition clouding my mind. For a brief moment, I saw myself through her eyes. Consumed, unrecognizable, lost. The dagger trembled in my hand as doubt crept in. Lucas, Jessica pleaded, her voice breaking. You're stronger than this. Don't let it take you. I clenched my jaw, torn between the intoxicating promise of the creature's power and the faint, flickering memory of who I used to be. The room seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with anticipation. With a guttural scream, I drove the dagger into the necklace, shattering the fragile mask. The room erupted in chaos. A blinding light burst from the sigil, accompanied by a deafening roar that shook the walls. The creature let out an inhuman wail, its grotesque form writhing in agony as the bonds holding it shattered. The shadows surged towards me, a tidal wave of dark energy that threatened to consume everything in its path. I braced myself, gripping the dagger tightly as the force slammed into me, sending me sprawling to the ground. For a moment, I thought I was dead, my vision fading as the world collapsed into darkness. But then, silence. When I opened my eyes, the room was still. The candles had been snuffed out, leaving only the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the window. The sigil on the floor was gone, scorched into the wood as a reminder of what had transpired. The necklace lay in pieces, its once ominous aura reduced to nothing. I staggered to my feet, every muscle in my body screaming in protest. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, relief, regret, and a lingering sense of loss. The creature was gone, its presence eradicated from this world. But so was the power it had promised, the dark allure that had drawn me in and nearly destroyed me. A soft knock at the door broke the silence. "Lucas?" Jessica's voice was tentative, cautious. "Are you okay?" I hesitated before unlocking the door. She stood there, her eyes wide with concern and relief. Behind her, Mom hovered anxiously, clutching a rosary in her trembling hands. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of something I'd thought I'd lost: connection. "It's over," I said, my voice hoarse. "The necklace, the creature, it's gone." Jessica threw her arms around me, her embrace tight and desperate. "Don't you ever scare me like that again," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Mom joined us, her relief palpable. "Thank God," she murmured, pulling us both into a trembling hug. "I don't know what that thing was, but it's gone now. That's all that matters." But as the days turned into weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The house felt lighter, yes, but there was an emptiness inside me that I couldn't ignore. The creature's promises still lingered in the corners of my mind, a haunting reminder of what I'd almost become. Jessica and Mom seemed determined to move on, throwing themselves into normalcy as if to erase the horrors we'd endured. I tried to follow their lead, burying myself in schoolwork and mundane routines. But every now and then, I'd catch myself staring at the scars on the floor where the sigil had been, wondering if I'd truly made the right choice. One night, months after the ordeal, I found myself drawn to the remnants of the necklace. I'd kept them hidden away in a locked box, unable to bring myself to throw them out. As I opened the box, the shattered mask seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, a faint pulse that sent a shiver down my spine. I closed the box quickly, shoving it back under my bed. The temptation was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. But I'd made my choice, and I'd have to live with it. The power I'd craved had come at too high a cost, and I'd nearly lost everything that mattered to me. In the end, the necklace was just an object, a conduit for something far darker and more insidious. But it had taught me a lesson I wouldn't soon forget. Some doors are better left unopened, and some powers are best left untouched. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the creature's presence still lingered, a shadow in the corners of my mind. But for now, I was free, and that would have to be enough.